The lecture hall at MIT buzzed with excitement as Dr. Emily Anderson adjusted her presentation slides. Her lecture on quantum consciousness had drawn an unusually large crowd, filling even the standing room with eager graduate students and fellow researchers. The autumn sunlight streamed through the high windows, casting long shadows across her digital models of neural networks. "And this is where it gets interesting," she said, pointing to a complex pattern of interwoven lines. "Human consciousness doesn't just process information, it creates quantum echoes that ripple through." She trailed off as the room suddenly darkened. At first, Emily thought it was a simple power failure. Then she noticed the absolute silence that had fallen over the lecture hall. One by one, heads turned toward the windows, where the warm autumn sunlight had been replaced by an impossible darkness. "Professor Anderson," a student's voice wavered, "I think you might want to see this." Emily walked to the window, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor in the dead silence. The sky had turned black, not with storm clouds or natural darkness, but with massive ships that stretched from horizon to horizon. Their surfaces seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating a void above that made her dizzy to look at. Phones began buzzing simultaneously throughout the hall. Emergency alerts, she thought, but the sound was wrong. Instead of the usual harsh warning tone, every device emitted a low, harmonious hum that made her teeth ache. The screens lit up with the same message: "To the inhabitants of Earth, prepare to receive the hegemony's terms." Emily felt a strange tingling in her brain as the message appeared, like static electricity but deeper, more intimate. She glanced around the room and saw other people rubbing their temples, squinting as if trying to clear their vision. "Everyone stay calm," she said, her research instincts kicking in. "Those who can, please record everything you're experiencing. Sensations, thoughts, anomalies, anything unusual." The air itself seemed to vibrate as a new presence filled every screen, every speaker, every electronic device capable of producing output. The being that appeared was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Too symmetrical, too perfect. Its voice came not just through the devices, but seemed to bypass their ears entirely. "We are the hegemony. For 10,000 years, we have brought unity and peace to the galaxy through submission to our perfect order. Your species has been evaluated and found worthy of inclusion. You have 30 of your days to submit to our authority. Those who submit will be elevated. Those who resist will be removed. This is not a negotiation." The lecture hall erupted in panicked whispers, but Emily barely heard them. Her mind was racing, analyzing the transmission pattern itself. Something about it triggered the same neural responses she'd been studying, quantum fluctuations in human consciousness that shouldn't be possible. Dr. Anderson, one of her research assistants, Thomas, appeared at her elbow. "The military is on the line. They're requesting you specifically." Before she could respond, a student in the front row stood up. "Why should we?" he asked loudly. The alien presence paused, its perfect features showing the slightest flicker of confusion. "Clarify your query," it demanded. "Why should we submit?" The student repeated, "What makes your order so perfect?" The room held its breath. Emily felt that strange tingling again, stronger now, as if the question itself had created some kind of resonance. The being's response came slower this time. "Submission is the natural state. All species submit. This is the way of things." Emily stepped forward, her mind connecting dozens of dots at once. "But that's not an answer," she said. "That's circular logic. And you're uncomfortable with that, aren't you? You can feel it, the discord in your perfect pattern." The transmission cut off abruptly, plunging the room into silence again. Through the windows, Emily watched several of the massive ships shift position, their movements suggesting agitation. Her phone rang. A secure government line. As she answered it, Emily smiled grimly. The hegemony had made their first mistake. They'd revealed that beneath their perfect facade, they could be rattled by something as simple as a question. The war for Earth's freedom would begin not with weapons, but with the unique way humans processed uncertainty, and Emily had a feeling she knew exactly how to use that to humanity's advantage. Colonel Jake Martinez stood in the underground facility, watching Dr. Emily Anderson explain her findings to the Joint Chiefs via secure holographic link. The bunker, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, hummed with activity as researchers and military personnel raced against the hegemony's deadline. The quantum patterns in human consciousness aren't just unique, Emily explained, manipulating a 3D model of neural pathways. They're impossible according to the hegemony's understanding of physics. Every time they scan us, their sensors can't process what they're seeing. Jake rubbed his temples, fighting off another headache. They'd been getting worse since the ships arrived. In English, Doctor. We're ghosts to them, Colonel. Their technology sees us, but can't quite understand what we are. It's like trying to measure a cloud with a ruler. A text from his daughter, Madison, lit up his phone. Dad, the whispers are getting louder. Need to talk. He quickly typed back, not now, kiddo, before returning his attention to the briefing. Madison had been complaining about strange sounds since the ships arrived, but every medical scan showed nothing wrong. He pushed down his worry. One crisis at a time. Dr. Anderson, General Roberts' hologram leaned forward. You're saying their advanced technology has a blind spot when it comes to humans. More than that, Emily brought up new data streams. Their entire civilization is built on perfect order, predictable patterns. But human consciousness creates quantum irregularities. Tiny moments of impossible probability that the lights flickered. Every screen in the facility scrambled for a moment, showing fragments of alien text before returning to normal. Jake noticed Emily staring at the corrupted data with intense focus. Did anyone else feel that? She asked. Like a ringing in your mind. Jake was about to respond when his phone buzzed again. Madison had sent a voice message. Dad, I can hear them talking. The ships, they're scared of something they found in our brains. They keep repeating the same numbers over and over. He played the message for Emily, watching her eyes widen. The numbers, Madison. She typed back. What are they? The response came instantly. 11, 3, 7, 13, 2, over and over. But not like regular numbers. Like they're trying to solve a puzzle that keeps changing. Emily's hands flew across her keyboard. Colonel, your daughter isn't hearing things. She's intercepting hegemony communications and translating them instinctively. The headaches, the whispers, some humans are naturally tuning into their network. My 16-year-old daughter is picking up alien broadcasts. Jake fought to keep his voice steady. Better than that, Emily pulled up Madison's earlier medical scans. Look at her neural pattern when the ships arrived. The quantum fluctuations in her brain increased exponentially. She's not just receiving their signals, she's processing them in ways their technology can't comprehend. Another power fluctuation rolled through the facility. This time, Jake felt it, like fingers brushing against his thoughts. Around the room, others shivered or rubbed their heads. It's spreading, Emily whispered. The more they scan us, trying to understand how we think, the more they expose themselves to human consciousness. We're infecting them with chaos, with uncertainty. Jake's phone lit up one more time. Madison had sent a single line. Dad, they're trying to quarantine a ship. The crew started asking questions. Get Madison here now, Emily said, already reconfiguring her equipment. And anyone else reporting similar symptoms. The hegemony thinks they're studying us, but they're exposing themselves to something their perfect order can't handle. Human intuition. As Jake made the arrangements, he watched Emily working with renewed intensity. For the first time since the skies turned black, he felt a spark of hope. The hegemony had come to change humanity. But instead, humanity might change them. In orbit, the massive ships continued their ominous dance above Earth. But now, in one of them, a crew member looked at their perfect orders and did something unprecedented in 10,000 years of hegemony rule. They wondered why. Michael Ghost Thompson pressed his hand against the cold tunnel wall, feeling the vibrations of the city above. 3 weeks into the hegemony's deadline, and humanity had gone underground in more ways than one. The abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York had become one of countless hidden command centers worldwide. Status report, he whispered into his modified smartwatch. The device, once a simple fitness tracker, now carried encrypted messages through the old subway power lines, invisible to hegemony scans. Seattle Hub Online, came the response, followed by confirmations from Chicago, Atlanta, and 24 other cities. Each voice calm, professional, determined. A teenager rolled past on modified roller skates, delivering supplies. The wheels had been replaced with magnetic levitation strips salvaged from high-speed trains, allowing silent transportation through the tunnel network. Above their heads, repurposed Christmas lights pulsed with coded messages. "Ghost, you need to see this." Sarah, their resident tech expert, waved him over to her workstation. A collection of gaming computers rewired into a powerful analysis hub. The hegemony just changed their scan pattern again. The holographic display, cobbled together from smartphone projectors, showed the alien ship's search grid. Their methodical sweep of Earth's surface looked like a perfect geometric pattern, except they're avoiding certain areas, Michael noted, getting sloppy. Sarah grinned, not sloppy, scared. Remember what Dr. Anderson discovered about human consciousness affecting their systems. Look at the gaps in their coverage. The areas the hegemony ships avoided formed a pattern that matched their underground network almost perfectly. They can't scan where too many humans are thinking creatively, Sarah explained. Our brainwaves create blind spots in their sensors. Michael's watch buzzed. A priority message from the Chicago hub. "Ghost, the food synthesizer is online. Project Cornucopia is go." He allowed himself a small smile. The food synthesizer was a school cafeteria's 3D printer, modified to produce essential medical supplies. The hegemony would detect large shipments of medicine, but they'd never notice cafeteria supplies moving between schools. "Tell each hub to begin Phase 2, he ordered, "and get me a secure line to Colonel Martinez." Before Sarah could respond, the tunnel shook. Dust rained from the ceiling as something massive passed overhead. "Hegemony ground transport," Sarah whispered, checking her screens. "They're doing another compliance inspection of the surface." Michael watched his people react. No panic, no wasted motion. The teenage courier silently shifted her delivery route. Supply officers redirected their shipments. A group of children playing cards continued their game, their laughter masking the fact that they were actually practicing encryption codes. His secure tablet lit up with Colonel Martinez's face. "Ghost, how close are we?" "Phase 2 begins now," Michael reported. "Dr. Anderson's quantum theory is proving correct. The more we adapt, the harder it becomes for them to track us. Their blind spots are growing." "Madison's been monitoring their communications," Martine said. "They're getting frustrated. 3 more ships reported crew contamination yesterday. Whatever effect human consciousness has on their systems, it's spreading faster than they can contain it." Another rumble shook the tunnel. On the surface, the hegemony's inspection teams would find exactly what they expected: a population preparing for submission. They'd see shuttered businesses, quiet streets, and humans going about their business with appropriate humility. They'd never notice that the real action had moved underground, where humanity's greatest strength, adaptability, was in full force. Every child's toy became a communication device. Every hottie became a cover for resistance operations. Even the graffiti on tunnel walls carried encrypted messages. "Time for your surface shift," Sarah reminded him. Like everyone else, Michael maintained a surface identity. In his case, a humble janitor at a local school. He nodded, changing into his maintenance uniform. "Keep everything running smooth." And Sarah, "Tell the Chicago hub to send that cafeteria supply shipment. Our people need their vitamins." She smiled at their code for medical supplies. "Stay ghostly up there, boss." As Michael climbed toward the surface, he passed dozens of similar scenes throughout the tunnel network. Engineers turned playground equipment into communication arrays. Teachers used homework assignments to distribute resistance plans. Parents organized playdates that were actually combat training sessions. The hegemony expected submission or perishment. Instead, they'd gotten humanity's greatest performance. An entire civilization learning to hide in plain sight, turning everyday life into a silent symphony of resistance. Above, the alien ships continued their precise, geometric search patterns, never realizing that the chaos of human creativity had already slipped through their perfect net. Jack Reynolds watched Hawaii burn from his underground bunker's view screen, his weathered hands clenching into fists. The hegemony's warning shot had turned Pearl Harbor into a crater, the blast deliberately contained to demonstrate their precision. They expected this display of power to break humanity's spirit. "They really don't understand us at all, do they?" he muttered, turning to his team. The abandoned diamond mine in South Africa had become their unlikely headquarters, chosen because the unique mineral formations interfered with hegemony scans. Dr. Emily Anderson's voice crackled through their secure channel. "Jack, our analysis of the blast pattern confirms it. They're using quantum-locked energy beams. Incredibly powerful, but they follow predictable paths." Jack finished, decades of demolitions experience clicking into place, like lightning always taking the path of least resistance. His team gathered around the planning table, an old pool table modified with holographic projectors. Above it, a 3D model of the hegemony ship that had attacked Hawaii rotated slowly. "Look here," Jack pointed to a section near the ship's energy emitters. "They're so focused on perfect efficiency, they've made their attack patterns mathematically predictable, and predictable means vulnerable." Madison Martinez's voice joined the channel. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm picking up their next target. They're planning to hit Jakarta in 12 hours. Same demonstration protocol." Jack smiled grimly. "Then we've got 11 hours to prepare their surprise party. Danny, how's our special package coming along?" Danny, a former mining engineer, patted the device they'd spent weeks perfecting. It looked like scrap metal, because that's exactly what it was. Mining equipment repurposed with devastating creativity. "Ready to crash their perfect party, boss. Those diamond drill heads you modified are singing like tuning forks at exactly the frequency you specified." The next 10 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Through the resistance network, thousands of people executed their roles with precision born of desperate practice. Street vendors in Jakarta casually moved their carts into specific positions. Children played games that just happened to create perfect geometric patterns with their chalk drawings. Even the traffic adjusted, cars naturally flowing into formations that would shape the coming battle. 1 hour to showtime, Colonel Martinez announced over the secure channel. "Ghost's teams report all pieces in position. Dr. Anderson's quantum calculations are locked in." Jack took a deep breath, checking the detonator one last time. They'd get exactly one shot at this. "Remember, people, we're not trying to destroy their ship. We just need to prove it can bleed." The hegemony ship appeared right on schedule, its massive form darkening Jakarta's sky. Jack watched through drone feeds as it began charging its weapon, the energy gathering in predictable, perfect patterns. "Now," he whispered. Across Jakarta, hundreds of seemingly random elements activated simultaneously. The modified diamond drills began vibrating at specific frequencies. The chalk patterns drawn by playing children reflected energy in calculated patterns. Even the arrangement of vendor carts and vehicles contributed to what was about to happen. The hegemony ship fired its weapon. But instead of destroying its target, the beam encountered something impossible. A network of resonant frequencies that turned its perfect quantum-locked path into chaos. The energy curved, twisted, and rebounded. For the first time in recorded history, a hegemony ship screamed. The blast caught its own emitter, creating a cascade of failures through its perfect systems. Secondary explosions bloomed across its hull as backup systems tried to compensate and failed. Hit confirmed, Ghost reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Their shield harmonics are destabilizing exactly as predicted. The massive ship listed to one side, emergency systems flaring as it fought to maintain altitude. More importantly, its crew was visibly panicking, their perfect order shattered by the impossible. Jakarta is safe, Madison reported. The hegemony fleet is pulling back to defensive positions. They're arguing among themselves. I can hear confusion in their communications. Some are questioning the logic of attacking worlds that can fight back. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Send word through the network. Operation Thunder is a success, and ask Dr. Anderson to start running calculations for our next surprise party. Humanity had drawn first blood. The hegemony's perfect order had just been cracked by human ingenuity, and that crack would only grow wider. Katie Williams hadn't left her grandfather's garage in 3 days. The space, once filled with classic car parts, now hummed with salvaged servers and modified gaming consoles. Lines of code scrolled across dozens of screens cobbled together from old televisions and laptops. Come on, she muttered, fingers flying across keyboards as she chased an idea that wouldn't let her sleep. Outside, the hegemony ships had doubled their patrols since the Jakarta incident, their formations now tight and nervous. Her grandfather knocked on the door, bringing fresh coffee. Any progress, sunshine? Almost there, Gramps. Katie grabbed the coffee without looking away from her main screen. Dr. Anderson's quantum consciousness theory is solid, but we need a way to network it, to share those neural patterns that make us invisible to their scans. Her grandfather watched the screens, his experience as a former electrical engineer letting him follow some of the concepts. Like a human internet. Better. Katie pulled up a new diagram. More like a shared dream. Mavis and Martinez can naturally tap into their communications. What if we could share that ability? Not just communication, but actual human consciousness working together. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Anderson requesting an update. Katie sent back her latest calculations, then returned to coding. She'd been a prodigy since childhood, but this was different. This wasn't just programming. It was trying to capture the essence of human thought itself. The breakthrough came at midnight. Katie stared at her success, a simple connection between two modified gaming headsets. Gramps, she whispered, I need you to try something. They put on the headsets. Katie activated the program, and, oh my God, her grandfather gasped. For a moment, they weren't just grandfather and granddaughter. They were a shared consciousness, experiencing each other's thoughts and memories while remaining distinctly themselves. This is how we fight back, Katie breathed, already reaching for her phone. Within an hour, Dr. Anderson and Colonel Martinez were watching her demonstration via secure link. It's not just communication, Katie explained, sending them the technical specs. It's true neural networking. We can share consciousness without losing individuality. Everything that makes us human. Our creativity, our intuition, our ability to make impossible leaps of logic, but amplified across millions of minds. And the hegemony can't detect it? Colonel Martinez asked. Better than that, Katie grinned. They can't understand it. Their whole society is based on rigid hierarchies and perfect order. This network is organic, chaotic, beautiful, and completely invisible to their sensors. Dr. Anderson's voice was excited. Katie, this could be the key. Their technology can't process human consciousness individually. Imagine trying to process millions of humans thinking together, sharing ideas at the speed of thought. How soon can we scale it up? Ghost's voice joined the call. The resistance network is already in place, Katie said. We can use the same infrastructure we've been using for communication. Every gaming console, every smartphone, every laptop can become a node in the network. We just need to. She stopped as her test system suddenly pulsed with new data. Through the network, she felt Madison Martinez connecting from her secure location. "They're planning something big," Madison reported, her consciousness carrying not just words but direct sensory impressions. "The hegemony ships are gathering for a major strike. They're scared of what happened in Jakarta, trying to reassert control." Katie felt others joining the network. Dr. Anderson, Colonel Martinez, Ghost, Jack Reynolds. Each consciousness added new dimensions of understanding. In seconds, they weren't just sharing information. They were processing it together, millions of neural pathways working in harmony. "Look," Katie highlighted a pattern in the hegemony's movements that no single human could have spotted. "They're not just gathering for an attack. Their formations, they're trying to create a quantum barrier around Earth. They want to isolate us because they're afraid we'll spread." Through the network, she felt the combined reaction. Not fear, but determination. Humanity had found its weapon. Not bombs or bullets, but the very thing that made them human. The ability to share ideas, to connect, to create something greater than themselves without sacrificing what made each person unique. "How long until their barrier is complete?" Colonel Martinez asked. Katie checked the calculations. Not just hers, but the combined mathematical intuition of every mind in the network. 24 hours. But that's okay. She smiled as more minds joined the network every second, each adding their unique perspective to the growing symphony of human consciousness. "We only need 12. Derek Foster's fingers danced across his keyboard, his consciousness split between the physical world and Katie's neural network. Around him, the server farm hidden in an abandoned shopping mall buzzed with activity. What the hegemony saw as a defunct retail space was actually the launch pad for humanity's most ambitious cyber attack. "Neural pathways mapped and ready," he announced to the shared consciousness. Through the network, he felt Dr. Anderson's approval and Colonel Martinez's focused anticipation. "The virus is primed. Just need the final sequence from Madison." Madison's consciousness touched his, sharing the alien communication patterns she decoded. Derek had once been the FBI's most wanted hacker before turning his skills to cybersecurity. Now those skills were humanity's best hope for survival. "Their quantum barrier is at 60% completion," Katie reported through the network. "We're seeing gaps in their formation as more ships show signs of crew instability." Derek grinned as he wove Madison's alien codes into his virus. The program wasn't designed to destroy. It was meant to awaken. Each line of code carried fragments of human consciousness, ready to infiltrate the hegemony's perfect system and introduce something they'd forgotten existed: choice. "Remember, everyone." Dr. Anderson's thoughts rippled through the network. "We're not just sending code. We're sending the fundamental essence of human free will. Every doubt, every question, every moment of uncertainty that makes us who we are." Derek felt the combined consciousness of millions focusing through the network, each person contributing their unique perspective to the virus. Artists added creativity. Scientists added curiosity. Children added wonder. Even the skeptics added valuable doubt. "Hegemony ships entering final barrier formation," Ghost reported. "Quantum isolation field at 75%. It's now or never." Derek took a deep breath. Initiating transmission in 3, 2, 1. He pressed enter. The virus launched, riding the very quantum frequencies the hegemony used to maintain their perfect order. Through the neural network, millions of humans felt its progress, watching through Madison's enhanced perception as it reached the alien ships. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, movement on target ship Beta 7, Madison reported, excitement coloring her thoughts. A crew member just asked why during a routine order confirmation. They've never done that before. The virus spread from ship to ship, carried by the hegemony's own communication networks. Each infection brought not destruction, but revelation. Target ship Delta 3 showing multiple crew members displaying independent thought patterns. Katie added, "Their neural architecture is adapting, becoming more human." Through their shared consciousness, Humanity watched as the virus took hold. The hegemony's perfect formations began to waver as crew members stopped simply following orders and started questioning them. They're experiencing individual thought for the first time in millennia, Dr. Anderson observed. Their neural patterns are shifting from rigid hierarchies to dynamic networks, like watching a crystal learn to flow like water. Derek monitored the virus's progress, making real-time adjustments as it encountered different types of resistance. Some ships fought harder against the infection of free will. Others seemed almost eager to embrace it. Quantum barrier construction has stopped, Ghost reported. 3 ships have broken formation entirely. They're asking for permission to communicate directly with Earth. The neural network hummed with collective triumph, but Derek kept his focus. We're not done yet. The hegemony's central command is implementing emergency protocols. They're trying to sever their ship's connections to quarantine the infection of independent thought. Not this time. Katie's consciousness merged with his, her network expertise complementing his coding skills. Together, they wrote new layers of the virus, ensuring it could spread even through isolated systems. Through Madison's enhanced perception, they all felt the moment the virus reached critical mass. Across the hegemony fleet, thousands of minds awakened to something they'd lost long ago: the ability to choose their own path. Message coming in from multiple ships, Madison announced, her consciousness bright with wonder. They're not asking whether we'll submit anymore. The network rippled with shared emotion as Madison relayed the new message. They're asking if we'll teach them how to be free. Lara stood at her command post aboard the hegemony vessel Eternal Order, experiencing emotion for the first time in centuries. The sensation overwhelmed her perfectly ordered mind as memories, long suppressed by hegemony conditioning, burst through crumbling mental barriers. Through the ship's neural interface, now infected with human consciousness patterns, she felt her crew experiencing the same awakening. Some fought it, clinging to the comfort of absolute certainty. Others embraced the change, centuries of suppressed individuality flooding back. Status report, she commanded, then stopped, startled by the tremor in her voice. For the first time in her service, the words felt like her own choice rather than programmed response. Central Command is implementing the Purge Protocol, her second reported. They're attempting to sever all neural connections and reset crew consciousness to baseline compliance. Colonel Martinez's voice crackled through their newly established direct communication channel. Lara, we're detecting massive energy buildup in the hegemony command ships. Whatever they're planning, it's happening now. Through the human neural network, a miracle of chaotic beauty that still stunned her, Lara felt the combined consciousness of Earth working to counter the threat. Dr. Anderson's scientific insight merged with Katie's technical brilliance and Derek's cyber expertise, forming solutions no single mind could devise. They'll sacrifice their own crews to maintain control, Lara realized. Just as they sacrificed our histories, our cultures, our very identities when they conquered us. The memory of her own world's submission hit her like a physical blow. The hegemony hadn't just conquered her people, they had erased everything that made them unique, replacing it with perfect, empty order. Energy spike detected. Madison's warning echoed through both human and hegemony networks. They're targeting awakened ships first. Lara watched in horror as the command ships fired, their quantum beams designed to lobotomize entire crew complements at once. The ship nearest to hers, the Dawn's Light, took a direct hit. But something impossible happened. The crew of the Dawn's Light didn't reset to baseline compliance. Through their shared neural connection, Lara felt them fighting, using techniques learned from humanity's resistance. Each crew member held onto their newly rediscovered individuality with desperate strength. It's working. Dr. Anderson's excitement rippled through the network. The human consciousness patterns are acting like antibodies, protecting against the reset attempt. More command ships fired, and more crews fought back. Some succeeded, some fell back into compliance, but each resistance sparked others to question, to fight, to remember. All awakened ships, Battle Formation Delta, Tilara commanded, then added something that would have been unthinkable hours ago. If you choose to join us. 16 ships moved to support her position, not through automated response or programmed loyalty, but through individual choice. The sight brought unfamiliar moisture to her eyes. Through Madison's enhanced perception, they detected Central Command preparing another assault. This one would be stronger, targeted specifically at Tilara's reformed battle group. We cannot withstand a direct hit from their combined weapons, her tactical officer reported, fear and determination mixing in his newly awakened consciousness. No, Tilara agreed, but we don't have to. She opened her mind fully to the human neural network, sharing memories of hegemony command protocols that even she hadn't known she retained. In return, humanity shared their most powerful weapon, unpredictability. As the command ships fired, Tilara's battle group executed a maneuver that violated every principle of hegemony tactics. Instead of perfect geometric formations, they moved in chaotic patterns inspired by Earth's flowing rivers and soaring birds. The quantum beams, calibrated for mathematical precision, couldn't track their organic movements. Each miss further disrupted the hegemony's perfect order, creating gaps that more ships began to exploit. Message from Earth Resistance, her communications officer announced, wonder in his voice. They say, welcome to freedom. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's absolutely worth fighting for. Tilara smiled, her first real smile in centuries, as she watched more ships break formation, choosing uncertainty over submission. The hegemony had demanded perfection. Humanity had offered something far more precious, the right to be gloriously, beautifully imperfect. Madison Martinez stood before the towering windows of the Galactic Council chamber, watching ships of 100 different species drift past. 3 months after the hegemony's fall, Earth had become the center of a very different kind of galactic civilization. The chamber itself reflected the change. Instead of rigid rows and hierarchical positions, the seats formed organic patterns that encouraged conversation and collaboration. Representatives from formerly subjugated worlds mingled freely, their restored cultures adding vibrant color to what had once been uniform gray. Ready for your presentation? Dr. Anderson appeared beside her, tablet in hand. The scientist had become something of a mentor to Madison since discovering her unique ability to perceive alien communications. As ready as I'll ever be, Madison replied, adjusting her formal jacket. At 17, she was the youngest person ever to address the Galactic Council. Though I still think Katie should be doing this part. Katie's busy teaching quantum networking to the Centaurian delegation. Dr. Anderson smiled. Besides, you're the bridge. You showed us it was possible to understand each other across species barriers. The council chamber filled quickly. Madison recognized many faces. Tilara, now representing her liberated people. Ghost, heading Earth's new diplomatic security team. Her father, Colonel Martinez, recently appointed to the Joint Defense Force. Even Jack Reynolds and his engineering team were present, helping other species rediscover technologies the hegemony had suppressed. Through the neural network, now expanded to include compatible alien minds, Madison felt the excitement and nervousness of the gathered representatives. Some species had been under hegemony control for millennia. Freedom was still new, sometimes frightening, but always exhilarating. The Council recognizes Madison Martinez of Earth, the moderator announced. Unlike the old hegemony protocols, this was a simple courtesy rather than a command for attention. Madison stepped to the center of the chamber. Through the network, she felt Katie, Derek, and the other architects of humanity's resistance lending their support. 3 months ago, she began, we faced an ultimatum. Submit or perish. But humanity offered a third choice, to connect, to share, to grow together while celebrating our differences. Holograms appeared around her, showing the spread of human consciousness through the hegemony fleet, the awakening of suppressed memories, the restoration of lost cultures. The hegemony sought perfect order through submission. They feared the chaos of individual thought, the uncertainty of free will. But humanity remembered something they had forgotten. True strength comes from diversity, from the beautiful complexity of minds working together by choice. She felt agreement ripple through the network, each species adding their own understanding to the shared consciousness. The Centaurians contributed their rediscovered artistry, the Proximans their renewed scientific curiosity, each restored culture enriching the whole. Today, we're establishing the framework for galactic cooperation, Madison continued. Not an empire built on submission, but a community founded on choice. Every species brings unique perspectives, different ways of thinking that make us all stronger together. The framework appeared in holographic form, not as rigid laws, but as flexible guidelines that encouraged collaboration while protecting individual rights. Dr. Anderson's team had worked with representatives from every species to ensure it served everyone's needs. Earth will serve as the initial hub for this network, not because we demand it, but because our neural technology makes us uniquely suited to facilitate connection between different species. We don't seek to rule, we seek to connect, to learn, to grow. Through the network, Madison shared images of the changes already taking place. Alien children learning to play Earth games, human scientists studying restored alien technologies, cultures blending and evolving in beautiful new ways. The hegemony asked us to submit or perish. Instead, we chose to rise together. They sought to end diversity. We choose to celebrate it. They demanded perfection. We offer something better, the perfect imperfection of free will. The chamber erupted in applause, both physical and mental through the network. Madison felt the joy of hundreds of minds, united not by force but by choice, each maintaining their unique identity while contributing to something greater. As she stepped back from the center, her father caught her eye and smiled. In that moment, Madison knew humanity had given the galaxy something far more precious than submission or resistance. They had given hope.